But what were the inhibitions back then, when you were entering into the industry? Because that time the industry was very different as compared to today. So what was the thought process going on? What were the inhibitions of, jumping into a world which is also
Yes,
called
it was
very
a
cutthroat?
huge cultural shock for me because I came from a business background. Even though I'm from a film line, didn't have an acting.
Right.
I didn't have the persona wherein you've trained from childhood to become an actor.
Right.
You know, I was academically inclined and I did interviews abroad. I studied abroad. I worked abroad. So for me, it was a huge cultural shock. And of course, there are certain do's and don'ts that people associate a newcomer with when you come into the film industry, that you've got to be a certain way.
Yes.
If you're becoming an actor, you've got to be a certain way. मतलब body ऐसी होनी चाहिए, attitude ऐसा होना चाहिए. There's like a very stereotypical expectation. And I was an introvert, so for me it was a little overwhelming. It was very I felt I've come from another world into another world, and times were changing. But when I came in, it was still a bit of the 90s era going on, कि फाइट क्लासेस होनी चाहिए, डांस क्लास, विच ज़रूरी है, लेकिन जिस तरीके से होनी चाहिए वो बहुत पुराना था उस ज़माने में. तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैं कर पाऊँगा भी कि नहीं. मुझे जॉब मिल गया, मैं कर रहा हूँ अपना काम, बट ये सब शायद मेरे बस की बात नहीं हो, ना हो. So I wanted to back out in between the making of before the movie started. I wanted to back out.
This is the first one.
Yeah. मुझे कुछ कहना है.
अच्छा, okay.
I wanted to back out, and eventually I just said that, okay, no, I'm just going to block this all noise, this whole, all this drama that they're associating with me because I'm a star son. I want to just block it all out and just do my work and play this character. And that's when I think I really started focusing on my job more, appropriately. And eventually, after every schedule, I got better and better and eased out. And when I took what people said much less seriously, that's when I actually started enjoying my work and just focusing on what needs to be done. And eventually, I worked so hard that the movie, well, that was one of the reasons I think the movie did really well, is because that character was accepted. And of course, with Kareena and with Vashuji's promotion and Satish ji, I had a good director who wanted me to. He didn't want to make me a filmy newcomer, on screen at least. He wanted me to play a character. That is what I think worked for me also.
Of course. Also, so coming from a film family at that time back then, were the expectations also extremely high already placed on you in the initial, run in your career? Because your sister was already a part of the industry by then, established a firm footing. Your dad had a legacy. Did you feel that pressure or that weight of that expectation already, even, while you were trying to find yourself?
Because see, my all the stress that I went through was my own.
Okay.
Like I said in the earlier question, that the expectation that people had of me when I was not on set, of how I must be a certain way, I should get into fights at discotheques and be in the news for whatever reason. Those kind of things.
Those assumptions were.
Yeah, those assumptions were what, those kinds of expectations were what really kind of annoyed me a lot and probably pressurized me a lot. But it was never because of whose son or whose brother I am. That's simply because I came from a world wherein I lived on my own for 5 years. And I got this job also as an actor on my own. So it was my earning. This movie was an earning that I had earned. So I never felt pressurized that, okay, I have to live up to somebody else's, body of work. That baggage never came. I'm being very honest with you.
Right.
Yeah, the pressure was there, but it was my own as a newcomer who's come into this world from another educational background. And maybe there were expectations in the media, and they were probably, kind of being a little more harsh towards me because I am somebody's son. So, that over critiquing and, the glass is half empty, even though, rather than the glass is half full. But I used to kind of dodge myself around those things and said, okay, picture pe dhyan do. So those expectations didn't rattle me too much. No. I was like, mujhe apne track pe chalna hai. My director has to be happy and the shot must be good. I guess my work ethic is what got me through that movie. Otherwise, I would have probably been a bundle of nerves.
And 25 years is not very easy to survive in an industry which is, known to be very cutthroat, very competitive, very complex
Yeah.
in its own way. We often keep hearing about how this industry is very ruthless. But at the same time, making choices also. What I want to understand, what was that one of the most challenging choices you've had to make in this journey, which changed the game for you also after
I
a
think the
point?
challenging choices. Firstly, it was after my first film did really well. A few films didn't work, so then Khaki came, but it was a multi-starrer.
Hmm.
So I was very gung ho about doing it because it's such a big film. But it being a multi-starrer, there was a little bit of a challenge. Ki, should I, break out of playing the solo romantic hero and now do something like this?
Yes.
But I had to be a part of that film, so I said it, yes, and that worked for me. Thereafter, Golmaal, the silent character,
Gopal.
Lucky.
Yes, sorry.
Initially, it was a silent character, so I said, sign language में कैसे entertain करूँगा मैं? Comedy कैसे होगी?
Hanji.
But I took that challenge on, and then we designed the character. Eventually, it got enacted in a manner which was very different from what you'd see a mute character play
Ha.
on screen before. How you'd see a mute character play
Ha.
on screen before, it was very different from that.
Right.
So that worked. Again, that was a challenge that worked off, that paid off. And then, of course, Shootout playing a negative role for the first time. I was like, I am not like this person at all. Will I be able to bring that character?
Right. And
to life?
I by then I don't think so. People had also seen you in that light of having this.
So
kind
I
of
guess I
negative-
did have that. There was an angst. There was something ruthless within me, which I kind of had to tap into, that aggression, to bring that bua out, on screen. And that is a challenge which was again very, very stressful, but it worked for me. Yeah, I used to crib कि ये कर पाऊंगा कि नहीं, and I used to tell my family that यार, why am I doing this film? Why am I playing with my career? Why am I playing? ऐसा लगा कि मैं जुआ खेल रहा हूँ अपने करियर के साथ, अलग अलग ऐसे कैरेक्टर्स कर रहा हूँ, हर बार एक चैलेंज निकल के आता है, क्यों मैं स्ट्रेस ले रहा हूँ? Let's just keep doing what's working for me, And then today I realize that those challenges are what people remember, those roles are what people remember. So because it was a challenge, it turned into a good opportunity and it worked for me.
But when you sounded out these concerns with family, what would they usually tell you? What would their feedback be on, these concerns?
They would. I'd like to believe they were not too supportive.
Okay.
They were not. They don't pamper me too much.
Okay.
They were like, "Why do you think like that? Everybody dies to be in your position." I'm like, but even if you're in an enviable position, you can be stressed and challenged about certain things. But I don't agree with my family in that regard. Not my sister or anybody, but my if I would talk to my parents about it, they'd be like, लोग मरते हैं ये करने के लिए, तेरे को मिल रहा है ऐसे काम, क्यों नहीं कर रहा है तू, क्यों इतना सिलेक्टिव हो जाता है, क्यों इतना सोचता है. So ठीक है, I mean सबकी अपनी अपनी राय है. Some people are
बिल्कुल.
too cool. I wasn't too cool about it. Yeah.
And Golmaal was the craze that the character got. And if I'm not wrong, I was reading in one of the interviews that initially there were no dialogues that the character had, and that and adding that sound was your improv, is what I was reading somewhere. Is that true?
Not my improv. There was a coach from theatre, Vikas Kadam. He's a well-known actor in Marathi theatre, and he was brought into the project to train me. And he and I together with Rohit, we worked out this character that he'll have a little more animated body language. He'll have expressions that are louder than normal because he's wanting to convey something without the regular words, So he'll have to be a little more expressive, and he doesn't have the ability to speak eloquently, but he can make sounds,
right?
Because he can hear. So he'll be louder than anybody else. He's saying a lot more than anybody else, even though he's not articulate about it because of his different abilities. So we made this character a little more harami than one would expect a gunga to be. Rather than go into that sympathetic zone for this character, we wanted to make him like equal to everyone else, which is why I think we improved it and we gave it a little bit of a twist compared to the mute characters you see in films regularly.
But over these years, with the franchise also evolving and now the 5th part coming very soon, how much has Lucky also evolved? What are we going
Every
to see
time
new?
I do a Golmaal, there is something new, something that
Hmm.
urges me to go that extra mile. Second part में there was a lot more that I had to perform
Huh.
compared to the first part because it was accepted as a character. Third part with that emotional scene, which was very out of the box, like Gunge ka ek emotional scene,
Huh.
बहुत ही intense emotional scene. And then in the fourth part, he gets possessed. So how will he become Nana Patekar?
Hmm.
So every time Rohit is giving me this challenge. Fifth part में क्या है मैं बताऊंगा नहीं.
Okay.
But obviously the fear is there. It's been 10 years almost. And the expectations are there. So whether the director requires me to or not, I have to up the ante. He's obviously checking on my sur at every point, seeing that it's like how it has been in the previous films, but I have to still give that little extra so that people who expect a lot are not feeling like okay cheated, that okay पहले में इतना था लेकिन अभी सेम लग रहा है,
Right.
तो वो कुछ अलग कुछ ज़्यादा कुछ थोड़ा कम थोड़ा मतलब एक हटके कुछ करना ही पड़ता है, and
बिल्कुल.
that is I have to rely on my instincts when I'm doing each scene here.
But what was it like coming back after 10 years? Was it all like it's all started where it was, where you all left it, or how was that?
Yeah,
like?
we just when we come together, there's some magic, and Rohit shows us the previous film के scenes
हाँ.
to let us know कि ये energy level थी चारों बार अभी ये चाहिए वापस. So he brings us into that zone again, and then we just flow. I don't know what it is. There's some magic with this franchise. Touch wood.
And Akshay Kumar is also now added to
He's
it.
there, yes, of course. He's also there. I won't reveal much about that character. It's a very special character.
Right.
But we've shot the first schedule for over a period of 80 days with gaps also. But it was a schedule running schedule for a period of 80 days. And it just flew by. I don't know what it is with Golmaal. शुरू होते ही खत्म हो जाती है. I think it's just the camaraderie, the chemistry.
Of course.
And director actor equation that has grown over the years. Now we're like family. तो ये family जब साथ आती है तो सब अपने कैरेक्टर में घुस जाते हैं अपने आप. I think that's our alter ego. ये जो हमारा कैरेक्टर है हमका अपना हमारा एक दूसरा रूप है जो इस फिल्म की शूटिंग के वक्त उजागर होता है.
But also tell me one thing. So after becoming a father, did your approach towards picking up scripts also change?
Not really. I think it's just over the years. I know a lot of people like बाप बनने या माँ बनने के बाद.
Because a few
now I'm
actors have
working for
told
my
me
kids, and I would no, not necessarily. It's just that over the period of years, I've become less sensitive about hits and flops.
Okay.
I think in the initial stages, I think you'd want to be right every time. The film has to work. Now I'm like, it's important to just do work. Again, like the old school formula of just doing as much work as you can, and not worrying too much about इसने क्या बोला, उसने क्या बोला, या कितनी चली, कितनी नहीं चली, because audience का प्यार है तो आपकी hits और flops के बावजूद उनका प्यार रहेगा. As long as you are doing good work, as long as you are trying your best, I'm not too worried about the outcomes as I used to be. Of course, there is nervousness, there is anxiety, but I think I'm much more confident now over the years than I used to be in the first few years of my career. I think that just comes with experience.
Of course. Also, one thing I really, really admired about you is becoming a single father. हमारे society में unfortunately, I feel dads are not given that much credit that, they should or they deserve. I want to know what, when you took this decision, what were you thinking, and, what happened after that?
Talk about it in a few words. Can't contain it in one answer. But it's something that was God sent, literally, because I was educated about this procedure when I came out of Tirupati temple in 2015, and I met somebody who spoke about a few people who've done what I did, and thereafter it just started manifesting on its own. I went to the doctor, and it was legal, and my son happened. So there was no intention to be different, or there was no intention to really stand out or make a statement. which people sometimes associate me with being this kind of a trendsetter or some path breaker. I never wanted
Right.
to really gain brownie points of it. I just literally wanted to be a father.
Hmm.
I was ready at that point of time, and I wasn't married, so this was the only way for me to have, become a dad at that point of time. And I did it at the right age. I'm 50 now. I became a dad when I was 40. So all I can say is it completes me. It makes me. I'm settled now. They say na कि शादी करके settle हो जाओ, but I feel settled. So when people ask me when are you getting to settle, when you settling, I said I am settled down. It's about how you feel in your mind, right? Whether you're
Correct.
settled down or not. I'm settled down. I can still go out and do the things I want to do as a bachelor, but I don't need to settle down the way society thinks.
Right.
One needs to settle down. It's in your head, and if you feel happy and you feel complete, that's settling down.
What's happening next?
Next is Janadesh with Prakash Jha.
Yeah.
It's ready, and I don't know when they're releasing it.
You're
Hopefully
playing
this
an
year.
MLA in it, if I'm
Yes,
not
yes,
wrong.
yes. I think I've spoken to you about this before also.
Yeah, we've had a
Brief
brief conversation about
And
this.
thereafter, there's Golmaal 5 will come early next year, probably, yeah.
But talking about Janadesh, how much can you reveal about it? Like, what can audience expect?
It's a political thriller.
Huh.
It's a quintessential Prakash Jha movie, but with younger cast.
Okay.
And very realistic, very entertaining. It's like your intelligent film for the common man. Let's look at it that way. Yeah.
Wow.
Very topical with today's atmosphere, today's आज की आवाम को लेकर
Okay.
जो पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियो खड़ी हो जाती हैं, इलेक्शन ये वो उस दौरान एक ड्रामा, that holds true for the society of today.
Right.
At the same time, very thrilling, like a true roller coaster thriller.
Wow. And
That's the
coming
best
from
way.
Prakash Jha,
Yes,
you
yes.
can expect something amazing.